What's good, football fans? I wanted to come on tonight and talk a little bit about a brainchild of mine that has been kind of floating around in between my lobes for quite a while now. Probably dating back to the MySpace days and to the first times of when I started to make videos and started to realize that I could get on a platform and be able to intermingle with fellow fans and have a voice amongst them. And that's to bring together an NFC East podcast. And, after a lot of time of sitting back and conversating with certain individuals, I finally am going to take the initiative on my own to just go ahead and start it. So here we are, episode 1 of the NFC Beastcast. And this show should have the potential to be able to be huge. I'm really looking forward to the ideas that I've got floating through my brain. And I just think that this has uncapped potential with the popularity of all four teams. Even in bad years, this division always claims a lot of headlines. So I thought maybe, of all the people I know, which is a lot over here on YouTube and across Facebook and everywhere else, I could kind of try to combine those networks and come up with something that's worth listening to. So here we are. And in the coming weeks, months, you could expect people like Mr. Bad Dog 7676, who is a New York Giants football fan and a diehard, and other guys like Chris the Entertainer talking sports, and Philly 500, obviously an Eagle fan. Some of you guys may remember from the old days, Psychopath, aka Iron Skin, obviously a Redskin fan. Other people that are going to be involved in the show from the B&G back in the day. I can almost be willing to bet money that once a few of these guys stand up and start talking on the program, that other guys that'll probably come in and get involved as well. So without further ado, I want to go ahead this week and get into the first episode by talking about the top storylines of the offseason. Now, I'm going to look at things based on the fact of who finished, first in the division, second in the division, third, fourth, whatnot. So, first of all, I'm going to start off by looking at Dallas. And some of Dallas' top question marks heading into this offseason really going to make everybody ponder. And it's going to take probably the better part of the offseason to figure out a lot of what's going on over there. But at first glance, you think that they've got something good going on over there with $45 million in cap space, and they can create even more by letting Sean Lee go, since I believe fully that Van Der Esch is the future at that particular position for their team. But who knows really what's going to happen, because when you really look at Dallas, when you start paying attention to what their players that are coming up on contract are really looking for, you really start to see that they are almost in trouble at this point. If I'm Dallas, I'm starting to think that maybe we should just go ahead and let Dak Prescott go and draft another quarterback and be able to keep up with, the ability of having that rookie deal. Because Prescott's market value is somewhere between 25 and 26 million a year. And that's way too much. I think every Cowboy fan will agree with that. Even the biggest Dak Prescott fan will agree that paying Dak 26 million or 25 million a year is way too much. It's just y'all can't do it and be able to keep a team that can win. From a Redskin fan who watched the Redskins try to keep Kirk Cousins and pay him 25 million, 20 million a year or whatever to cover that cap, I could tell you it doesn't work, because you start losing players. And we lost Djax, we lost Pierre Garçon. They wanted too much money also. But in the long run, there was nothing that we could do because there was just nothing there, and we had to go year to year. Now, somebody like Dak, if you've got to pay him $25 million a year, then that means somebody else is not going to get paid. In comparison, DeMarcus Lawrence is their top free agent this year. And Lawrence his market value is somewhere between like 17.8 a year and like almost $20 million a season to play edge rusher. That is that 4-3. I believe he plays 4-3 in, but I'm not 100% certain. I know he plays on that edge though, and that particular position gets paid a lot. It's just the market that we're in right now. And plus, he was one of the top players last year at this position. Amari Cooper is going to get paid next year. Now, Ezekiel Elliott is a situation where I swear to you, I thought I read an article the other day, and I didn't go digging for it before I started this video, but I could have sworn I read an article the other day where Ezekiel Elliott was thinking about holding out against Dallas if they didn't give him a new contract heading into this season. And if that be the case, then Dallas is probably in trouble with that one. Elliott is the engine of the team. I believe he's going to want a lot of money per season. I mean, his market value is the upwards of $9-10 million a year, but he may want more than that. You may end up seeing him go to a different team. I don't really know what's going to happen with Dallas in that situation. I mean, they're sitting with almost $46 million in cap, and like I said before, can create more. But they've got a lot of skill players sitting back on deals that need to be renewed that are going to cost well over $60 million a year to pay them. So I don't really know what Dallas is going to do when it comes to a lot of those situations. But being the fact that we're going to be talking about all four teams on this particular Beast cast, I will be touching more on that topic as free agency unwinds and we start to see which direction each team takes, and we start to see the direction each team takes after the draft and during the draft. But I have a few ideas of what I think the Cowboys will try to do to get things right. And one of which I've already stated, which is cutting Dak Prescott, or not cutting him, but just not paying him, letting him walk. And I know that's kind of scary to think about, but it's doable if the Cowboys prepare ahead of time. Like if they would take somebody in this draft in like the third or fourth round, fifth round, somewhere along that nature. The Cowboys free agent list is kind of interesting. Tavon Austin and Cole Beasley are both on it. David Irving, I kind of expected David Irving to walk anyway. I don't expect that they'll re-sign him. Now, I may be missing a couple younger players on the bottom of that list, and if I am, please forgive me. But Tavon Austin, I have a feeling they'll let walk. I mean, with the group they've got with Cooper, Hearns, Terrence Williams, Gallup, and then Beasley. Now, Beasley is a question mark as well because, as you see, he is on the free agent market this year. He's an unrestricted free agent. So Dallas has, a decision to make with him. Now, he's become a very important part of their team, so I could see Dallas paying him and letting Tavon Austin walk. But he is 30 years old, so it does bring up a question mark, and Tavon Austin has a lot of speed that he brings to that position that makes him kind of a durable, maybe almost even a slash type back, so to speak. But they got question marks there. Which one will they renew? Will they renew either one of them? Will they let both of them walk? I got to think letting Cole Beasley go would hurt their offense, though. Now, looking at away from free agency or looking at away from deals, the Cowboys center Travis Frederick is saying he hopes to be ready by March or April. And that's great news after hearing about, perhaps maybe him never playing again. It's great to hear that he's going to get better, and that he's saying he's going to be ready to start off-season workout programs. So that's even better. If you're a Cowboy fan, though, you have to stop and wonder, how much does Dak want? How much is he worth? And how much is Jerry willing to give him? Those are the three things you have to stop and wonder. And once you stop and wonder those three things, then you have to realize what the best option for the team is. Not what the best option for your fantasy football team is, or what the best option for your, personal wants are. What the best option for the team is. Is it worth it to pay Dak that kind of money and watch Zeke walk? Or is it worth it to pay that kind of money to him and Zeke, and then maybe watch a couple other players walk? Because there's no way they're going to be able to pay all this high-priced talent all at once. It's just not possible. Now, moving on to the Eagles. Now, I'm going to be straight honest with you. I thought the Eagles would have a fall off year this year. This past year, I should say. And they didn't. They made the playoffs. They honestly looked like they had a little fight in them all the way up to the end. But the aftermath of that is they're now over $7 million over the cap. Now, there's a little, iffy kind of business going on there because once the top 51 rule crops out, they'll be like 1.7 over the cap. So it's all in how you look at it. Plus, Philly could save quite a bit of money by cutting certain players like Nelson Aguilar. I believe they could save the upwards of $9 million. Jason Kelsey could be let go or restructured, whichever way they want to look at that. He's sitting at like 6.5. Jason Peters is sitting at like $8 million that they can save by cutting. I mean that's a good chunk of change. That's like $23 million right there they could save by cutting those three players. Peters is getting old and has had a bunch of injuries, so honestly, it'll probably be the right thing to go on and let Peters go. And of course, then they'd have to find a viable replacement. I know they have a couple players that they could stick in. I'm not sure if they're viable though. I've watched as a Redskin fan. I've watched Ryan Kerrigan run through that Vitae guy. Is that his name, Vitae? I've watched him, get murdered over there on that side. It really looks like they need to do something to strengthen that side of the line. But it could just be me as an opposing fan seeing it that way. Now, what I'm seeing on Philly's free agent list is a lot of veteran players that you kind of expect to see them watch and let go. Brandon Graham is not it's not a really all that much of a surprise to see him there. Golden Tate, everybody kind of figured he'd walk. They'll still get a decent pick back, a compository pick for Golden Tate, and possibly one for Brandon Graham, depending on what kind of deal he signs elsewhere. And definitely one for Nick Foles. So you could be looking at possibly 2 3s and a 4 there. I'm not sure about Wallace, but they definitely are going to get some compository picks out of those players right there. Now, what this marks is a time for Philly to rebuild in the draft. Now, I know a lot of Philly fans are thinking they're just going to reload and compete again, which they quite possibly could. They have some players in place that should be able to keep them competitive without a doubt. They have a really good quarterback, probably the best one in the division. Actually, there's really a lot of argument in that conversation to say that Carson Wentz is definitely the best quarterback in the East. But they could save a lot of money by cutting those other 3 players, but then you start looking at what they have otherwise, and it's time for them to use the draft this year. That really is going to be the big thing for them. But for me, their number one question mark this offseason has got to be who will be their running back in 2019. We know who their quarterback is going to be. I mean, Nick Foles, they know that they're going to eventually have to let go, I think. I think the league has already said that it'll be a violation of the CBA if they try to tag him and trade him. I don't know. I'm not big on those rules, but I will tell you that I can recall some conversations amongst Redskin fans and the beat writers and such where the Kirk Cousins conversation came to light, the same talk, and it was said then that it would be a violation of the CBA. We couldn't tag him and trade him. It is what it is. Philly's, a year removed from being a Super Bowl champion. I think most people are expecting a little bit of a fall off. They've got cap issues. They maybe could try to get a really good draft this year. A lot is going to depend on the draft. If they can draft well, they'll compete again this year. Or next year, I should say. But that remains to be seen. A lot of players to plug and play. They got a lot of young guys to plug and play with. We'll see what they do. I mean, we got a lot of time between now and the beginning of the season and a lot of offseason in between. I've spoken at length about everything about the Redskins this offseason so far. The biggest question mark with the Redskins, without doubt, is who will be the quarterback in 2019. It's looking like it's going to be Colt McCoy right now. But Josh Johnson is going to be back, it seems. Bruce Allen said just the other day that they're trying to get him back. Maybe they'll chase a free agent. Teddy Bridgewater, perhaps. Maybe they draft someone. Now, my only thing is if I'm Washington, I don't want to move up to take any of these quarterbacks. I'm hoping that somebody falls to me at 15. If no one falls to me at 15, then I need to look past the second round or whatever to then select a quarterback. Now, obviously, it could work against Washington at some point where all the quarterbacks that are decent could be gone by the time they pick in the third round if they choose to not take one in the second as well. It may end up being a decision that Washington has to make because they have needs for a safety and a wide receiver, and you can make an argument they need a cornerback. So, quarterback is needed. Would a young rookie quarterback even start in the system? I mean, it seems maybe Colt is the guy that Gruden has wanted the whole time. He keeps getting hurt, though. So, if we draft a guy, Colt gets hurt, the young guy gets his shot, and he's not ready, then we've thrown a guy to the wolves, and we've perhaps wasted a pick. Let's say we go and draft a guy like Kyler Murray. He's small, and he's a question mark on how durable he is as far as injuries go in the big league. So if we go and draft him and he gets hurt after Colt gets hurt, then we've wasted a pick, and we've cost that guy his future. And not to mention the fact Jay Gruden is kind of a lame duck coach at this point. And if I'm the person in charge of the organization, I'm not going to say that Washington is smart with their decisions, but if I'm a person in charge of the organization and in charge of what's going on, I'm definitely not going to want to bring in a young quarterback with a coach that's on the way out as far as a starter goes, or a guy that could possibly be starting. So that's just food for thought as far as the Redskins go. They need a big, big, big movement from the rushing game in 2019. Whoever the quarterback's going to be, it's going to have to be Darius Geis, Adrian Peterson, and Chris Thompson powering the Washington Redskins offense. Other major concerns, who's the wide receiver going to be? Big chance that Jamison Crowder walks in free agency. He's looking like $8 million plus a year. I'm not sure if the Skins want to pay him that. Who's going to play at safety? I mean, HaHa Clinton-Dix is probably going to walk in free agency unless he gives him a 1-year prove-it, which question marks on if he'll do that. So a lot of situations could go either way with the Redskins. They're like 21 point something million in cap they have this offseason, but they have a lot of concerns, and they have to pay Alex Smith $20 million no matter what. He's guaranteed. There's nothing they can do about it. It's already been rehashed and hashed again. Now, the one thing to keep an eye on is I do believe that they're going to reassess where they're at with Alex Smith, let's say week 9, week 10 next year. So come November, be expecting the Redskins to kind of throw out a report to let everybody know what's going on with Alex Smith. Now, I know a media report came out not too long ago saying he wasn't going to play for the rest of the year, but the Redskins have denied that. That could just be them playing politics as well. We'll see. Now, I'm going to talk about New York last. In my opinion, New York's probably in the best position as far as going into free agency with money. They have $27.4 million in cap, but they can free up over $36 million more by letting go of, and I know this is a big one, but by letting go of Eli Manning, they can save $17 million. By letting go of Olivier Vernier, they can save $11.5 million. And by letting go of Janoris Jenkins, they could save $7.75 million. Now, even if they were to keep Eli, they still could save $19 million by making the other two moves. And that would give them the excess of about $46 million, something of that nature. So, in my opinion, the Giants are in a really good position to build back. Now, they have a lot of needs, though. I mean, they still have big questions on their line, their defense. When is the last time the Giants even drafted some decent linebackers, And Landon Collins, their star free safety, who was just an all-pro, talk of MVP a couple years ago, and now he's the free agent. I have to wonder what happened there. I hear a lot of people say he wasn't trying hard enough. I know his market value is off the chart. I've heard a lot of people trying to put him in the same column with the Redskins, thinking the Redskins might try to go get him. If he lowers his asking price, that is a possibility. Now, if he is going to get paid the way that his market value determines where he gets paid, the Redskins won't be interested, though. I could be wrong in that point of view, but to my better knowledge, I would say no, considering he's more of an in the box kind of guy instead of it being a center fielder, which is kind of what they need at this point. The Redskins are actually kind of in trouble at safety because of what happened with DJ Swearinger, Monte Nicholson. They really don't know what's going to happen with HaHa Clinton-Dix. So a position that they thought last year was taken care of, now they're in trouble again. Well, the good thing about HaHa Clinton-Dix, if he were to walk, they would be able to get a compensatory pick on him as well. Now, looking at what the position the Giants are in my opinion, the number one storyline question mark for the Giants heading into this offseason or in this offseason is what will they do with the number 6 pick in the draft? Will they trade it back? Will they draft Dwayne Haskins? Will they draft Kyler Murray? Daniel Jones? Drew Lock? Hell, will they take an edge rusher? Will they take a lineman? It's a lot of question marks. The Giants could go in a bunch of different directions. I think we're not going to fully know until after the combine. But the Giants have some wiggle room because they already have receivers. They should go ahead and go quarterback. Just my opinion, because they don't have to move up. Which means if it busts, it's just a busted 6 pick. They didn't have to give up other picks to move up. But at the same time, they could move back and add more picks in the draft, which they highly need. So it's an iffy thing. It could go either way. If this or if that. I believe the Giants are in the best position as far as money and already obtained skill players. I mean, they already have Saquon Barkley. They already have wide receivers in tow. Guys signed for a while. I could really see this being a big offseason for the Giants if things go the right way. They got Dave Gettleman over there who is good at building teams. The problem Gettleman always had in Carolina was their owner was a sorry ass. I mean, let's just be straight up and honest. He was not a very good dude. And he got in the way of paying players, in the way of keeping players too long. He got in the middle of things. He meddled. Now, I know you never heard about Jerry Richardson meddling, but that's just because it's Jerry Richardson and not Jerry Jones or Daniel Snyder. It's the Carolina Panthers. They're not the Dallas Cowboys or the Washington Redskins. So they're not front page news. And I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm just being honest. Carolina's, maybe 25 years old now. The Redskins are over 80 years old. And Dallas is one of the most recognizable franchises in the world. But that's really all I got on that particular subject. And, I wanted to let everybody know that in the future, you could expect more content. I'm going to try to get more people involved with the actual planning of how we do, certain subjects and what we do with the content. But for right now, we're going to keep it just like this. We're going to have some call-ins. I may even have a call-in line open for some people to call and give their opinions on things. Maybe we could do a Q&A with certain people, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I know that the Entertainer Talking Sports has had some issues with some trolls calling in, and I'm not beat for trolls, so that's just the way I do things. I block trolls. So we'll see how that works. But that's all I got for this particular episode. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.